Welcome to We Hear Her. I am Erin Trenbeth Murray.
And I am Jennifer Bean.
We're here today with another amazing woman who's sharing her story and insights to lessons learned. Hello there, I'm Erin Trenbeth Murray with We Hear Her podcast with the women who succeed. I am excited today to get to talk to Katie Amundsen, who has become, I believe, a close friend, a good friend, and professional colleague over the past year that I've gotten to know her. I just admire her so much for all that she is doing with alumni relations at the University of Utah, which is my alma mater, proud Ute. And I want to tell you a little bit about Katie before I dive into some heavy questions. No, not really. So Katie Amundsen leads the Alumni Relations and Development Office at the David Eccles School of Business, where she's been the Assistant Dean since 2019 and a member of the University of Utah staff from 2005. She moved here from Chicago after completing her graduate work. She's originally from that Midwest area and earned her undergraduate degree in communications from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and a Master's of Arts in journalism from Columbia College in Chicago. Katie talks often about her being a proud mama. She has two daughters, Stevie, who's 9, and Gemma, who's 4. And she enjoys spending time with her family, being outdoors, watching live music and Pilates. That I did not know. That scares me, the Pilates part. In addition to the Women Who Succeed, Katie also serves on the First Ascent Scholars Board at the David Eccles School of Business. And so with that, Katie, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. First of all, I want to dive in about Stevie and Gemma.
Yes.
And
my favorite topic.
Is it?
Yes, I love those girls.
I know, because it feels like every time we talk, the girls are right there in the forefront in some regard. Like your schedule, the way you're balancing being the assistant dean of a very demanding and robust college at the University of Utah, and then being a mom of 2 young girls. Tell me a little bit about how you're dividing and conquering your time and energy with that.
I have no idea.
How does that happen?
Well, I'm lucky to have a good hubby who currently is a stay-at-home dad. So that helps a lot. Honestly, I'm like, I don't know how we would do this if he was working full-time. I mean, we would figure it out, but he's kind of there to help schlep the kids around from activity to activity and help with homework and make sure the teachers are getting the responses they need and all of that.
I always felt like when my husband and I were both working with our kids were young, I was like, I never know when the bake sales are. Yeah. I didn't know the science project was due to, like, how am I missing all this communication?
Well, and what's interesting is, we talk about this a lot actually between him and I, that the schools assume the mom is the parent to go to. Like, I can't tell you how many times he's sent emails to a teacher with CCing me, and then the teacher responds to me and takes him off the chain altogether.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And he's like, did they respond? I'm like, oh yeah, we got it all figured out. He's like, why did I get cut out of it? Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's interesting. No, I mean, we're busy for sure. And, we got lucky and we have good kids. We're not at the teenage years yet. So talk to me in about 4 or 5 years when Stevie,
because they're 9 and 4.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. About to be 10 and 5. So
basically 16 and 12.
We're starting to hit those ages. And, I take the girls into school in the morning, which actually is like a really sacred time for me. It's always a mad dash to get out the door, but once we get out, we just have so much fun in the car chatting. We have car DJ every morning, and that alternates between, the girls, and we listen to a lot of, just fun music and sing along and
Well, and you love outdoor music.
Yes.
You like going to concerts, like Red Butte? Is that,
Yes.
So music, big thing for you.
Yes. Lots of dance parties in our house. And I think for me, the biggest way that I make things work is I really do try to be present in the moments that I'm in. So if I'm with my kids, I'm trying not to think about work, or at least not check email or whatever, right? And if I'm at work, I'm trying to stay focused at work. And, obviously that's not perfect, but.
No, I had another woman telling me the same thing earlier
Kind
about
of
compartmentalize.
compartmentalize, yeah, exactly.
We're getting better at it.
Yes.
But yeah, that really being present and in the moment,
Yeah.
and that relationship with your kids, I still need to work on it with my husband. I felt like I did pretty well with my boys. They're 18 and 22, and they've moved out to college, but I still don't do a great job of staying present, I don't think, with my husband.
No, the husband relationship's a whole nother podcast.
I'm a little multitasking during that time period.
But and then COVID was hard. Working from home and having us all at home was really hard for our family. We did not do very well with
did not do well.
No, I mean, I'm just being honest. Yeah. Like there were a lot of fights and boundaries kind of stepped over and between all of us, and it was hard to understand where our roles were in a 2,000 square foot house where everyone had we were all in kind of different stages of life, and that was very confusing for all of us. So we're glad to be back out into the world and getting vaccinated and living our lives and having that separate time so that we can come back at night and be a family together. And then, of course, our weekends, we try to devote to doing fun activities on the weekends as family.
I love that. I like the honesty and the authenticity.
The only way to be.
Like, we argued, right? Yeah, that just is a thing, especially in a small. Couldn't have ever been a pioneer woman because I couldn't have lived in a 10 by 10 cabin with my kids and my husband.
No.
So tell me, when Taylor, I'm really actually curious about this. So I think a while back when we first started Women Who Succeed in the spring, I believe Taylor Randall, right, had reached out to you and said, hey,
you should do this.
You should do this.
Yeah.
And Taylor and I had been in YPO together, and that's how I knew Taylor. When he first broached you with the subject, and then you and I talked, and you can be completely candid and honest here. We had a Zoom meeting. You're probably like, she's nuts. Like, what? She doesn't even have an established program here. Or was it more like, this seems like something that I could get into because I connect with my daughters, or I'm not afraid of entrepreneurialism, like starting this up from scratch. Like, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah. I personally was all about it. I'm a girl's girl. I love other women and networking with other women. I love kind of the idea around, rising, like helping, using my network to help other women succeed and help young women succeed. And I'm all about that. So the startup piece of it didn't scare me off. No. The part that actually scared me off was kind of my own self, like hearing all these other names of people on this board, Crystal Magalette, Heidi Woodbury, big names to me that I've always looked at and thought, wow, I want to be like them when I grow up. And they're mentors of mine, and I'm like, I don't belong on this board. I think they got the wrong person, actually.
Little imposter syndrome.
Exactly.
The wrong person.
Yes, it was imposter syndrome. And then I was actually just meeting the other day with Melissa Griffith, and her and I were talking about that. And we both agreed that then we got on the board and started meeting all the women, and we were like, oh, there are women like me on here, and there are women from all sorts of different backgrounds and walks of life and different stages in their career. And it isn't necessarily that we're all the top dog at our company or whatever, so we all have different things that we're bringing to the table and different things that we can offer the group. And so that actually made me feel so much better. Like meeting number one, honestly, like Angela Dunn is another person that I was like, I don't belong in the same group as Angela Dunn. She has like a real job that she's doing, leading us through
A
a pandemic.
pandemic.
And then I met her, and it's like, oh, you have a 9 and a 4-year-old too, and oh, let's go have drinks, and
Yep.
oh my gosh, we like all these same things, and now we're personal friends, you know. And
Mhm.
so that's just been so much fun. And really, at the end of the day, I think the mission is so great. And I mean, I work for a nonprofit. I have been in development and alumni relation work my entire career. A mission really speaks to me. I want to help people, and so that's what I think this is all about, and that's really what matters. So,
Do you know how important that is for me to hear? Because what I did not want when I first was mulling this idea around with Kathy Garf, I didn't want it to be a pretentious group that was exclusive. I didn't
right.
want this to be about money. Certainly, the financial resources are very helpful because we're trying to give girls scholarships
Sure.
and we're trying to pay girls to be mentors. So that there's an engine to that, right?
Yeah.
We need some fuel. But the diversity of the women, and I couldn't believe
Amazing.
I couldn't believe it just exploded so much. Like we thought we'd have like 25 women. We didn't realize it would resonate so much, just this common theme of how do we build confidence and leadership skills in girls and young women.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter what your background is. If you're passionate about that,
Mm-hmm.
then that's what really does count. It really does count. It's the artist, it's the judge, it's the filmmaker, it's the assistant dean, it's the you know, CEO of Maverick. Like, it doesn't matter what your title is. That's not what defines us.
Right.
It's not what defines this group.
It is so true. And I think maybe even uh, I think because that's been the driving mission, that's what's brought so many different people from so many different backgrounds to the
Maybe.
table. Um, and I think that I hope anyway that the young women who are being mentored see that, you know, and can understand that there's no clear path for anybody. You know, I really don't think that. I mean, I think so many of us sort of stumble throughout our careers to get to the place that we end up being, and it's not necessarily that you know, I think there are some people that grow up thinking I'm going to be a doctor and I know I'm going to be that, but I don't think that that's most people.
Most
And I
people,
think
yeah.
that it takes the common theme amongst a lot of us is it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of integrity, honesty, you know, being kind to other people, saying yes, seeking out the opportunities. And that's something that anybody can do. You don't have to be
Right.
born into a certain family
Right.
or have, you know, that absolute clear trajectory of where you want to go. If you just do some of those other things, you'll land and end up in a good spot and feel good about where you are, wherever that is, right? Like, even if you don't have the top title, you know.
So
So,
tell me a little bit. You have a bachelor's and a master's. You work for a higher educational institution. So this clearly is something that is an important value to you, is this advancement of education. Utah is #1 in the country for women who drop out of college after 2 years. And from your perspective of where you're,
ouch, by the way, I did not
ouch,
know that.
yeah, surprise,
Yeah.
but not a good surprise. What words of guidance or encouragement could you give to those young women that may be at that pivotal piece? They're 2 years in, they are trying to balance it all. They may have small children, they may have recently gotten married, and they're trying to figure out how to what to do.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is to say, be curious and stay curious. I think for me, it's not necessarily that I do value higher education for sure. I work at a higher ed institution. Like, I think I might get fired if I say I don't, but
Right.
but no, I do. But I think the bigger thing for me is that I feel like I'm a lifelong learner. I want to learn about things. I'm curious about people. I'm curious about industries. I'm curious how things work. And so to, you know, folks who are struggling to maybe get through a certain subject or stay in school because of life's demands,
Yeah.
I would encourage people to just stay curious. Now, I also recognize that that might sound sort of privileged, like, oh, well, yeah, but I also need to put food on the table and I can't just sit here and be curious if there are like real demands of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you could take that advice and turn it on its head and say, okay, well then how can I stay curious and find resources that back that up? Like, oh, I don't have a scholarship. Okay, well, how do I get a scholarship? And that's being curious about something. And so now you're on the path to figure it out for yourself. And I mean, I didn't have a lot handed to me. I did not come from
Mm-hmm.
huge family resources or anything like that. And I feel like I just kind of worked my butt off and stayed curious and dedicated myself to lifelong learning. And, now I'm here where I'm at. And I will say this too, even on a kind of micro scale within my department, I was hired in a very entry level position, but I was curious about how the whole organization worked. And I've pretty much done every job in that
I
office at
love
one
that.
point or another, from processing gifts to like updating the website to securing major gifts to balancing the budget. I've
Mm-hmm.
kind of seen it all at different points in my career, and I never said no to a job that was given to me. And I kind of stayed curious about how the whole organization worked. And so when Heidi Woodbury left and became the VP over institutional advancement for the U, I think that I was kind of the obvious choice to be the interim because I knew, soup to
Right.
nuts how the whole thing worked. And obviously, I've learned a lot since taking the job full time. There were a lot of pieces I didn't know, but um, anyway, I just say that because I think I've seen it play out in my own life, and I think that's an important kind of thing for people to remember to keep at the forefront. Like, just figure it, stay curious and figure it out. Like, you can
Right.
do it. Keep
Push through
going.
it.
Yeah, push through it.
So when you've
It's
had
not easy all the time,
not easy,
you know?
so which is what I want to ask you. Can you share with us maybe a disappointment that maybe you had in school or in your career? And you're like, all right, so let's pull up our bootstraps and here we go again.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily been a disappointment, but a challenge that
Yeah.
I've hit has in management has been dealing with so when Heidi left, she said to me, "Welcome to the job of head therapist." And I sort of thought that was funny, and she's so right. I mean, the people side of things is so much work. Like, it is to manage, your team's
Mm-hmm.
expectations and what they expect from you as a leader. Um and so, and especially in this last like year and a half with COVID, I've seen a lot of people struggle and a lot of mental health stuff,
Yeah.
and
And you're their leader.
that has been, yes, and that is really hard. I just have so much empathy for people, and I feel for them on a really deep level, and I want what's best for people, but you also have to manage that with the expectations of their job and what you are paying them to do at the workplace, right? And so I underestimated how difficult that is, and kind of honestly thought that was a joke when she said it. It is not a joke. That is the leader's job, is being sort of the head therapist in an organization. Maybe it changes if you get,
No.
bigger and bigger
I
into
had
bigger
600
companies.
staff and it never changed. I think that that's something like with Women Who Succeed with our mentees, trying to help young women with confidence and leadership skills because these soft skills, these interpersonal skills, these leading of teams,
Yeah,
there isn't necessarily always a black or a white answer. It's never just right and wrong. There's
100%.
a lot of gray and a lot of finessing that takes place as a
Yes.
leader.
Yes, everything
Yeah.
is gray. The whole world is gray,
Right.
in my opinion. And yeah, and it's just figuring out the right way to motivate people and to have hard conversations with people that aren't going to completely devastate them. That has been a huge challenge that
Mhm.
I've had to overcome and sort of gain my own confidence in that, because the other piece of it is I I'm working, some of the staff I have are older than me and they have different life experiences than me, right? I mean, and I've always viewed people older than me as like, oh, you're
The
the boss,
authority,
you're the
yeah.
authority. Yeah, and I'm like, oh wait, I'm your
I'm the
boss.
boss.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, they're looking to me for the answer. And so yeah, that's something that I've definitely had to grow into. I think I'm still learning that somewhat. I mean, and the other piece of it is that there is just no predictability in it. You just have no idea when something's going to come out of left field, and you gotta you gotta deal with
You got to
it.
deal.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just got to deal. And you need to have a different presence, like what you're outwardly showing to your staff oftentimes, this calmness, this confidence, this
sure.
reassuredness.
Yes.
And then behind his eyes, you're like, oh my gosh, we are in trouble.
Yes.
Well, I think that what I'd love for you, as we're closing up here, I'd love for you to share with me what you hope for your daughters. Paint a picture for me of what it looks like when they are 21. What your
Oh
hopes or
man.
dreams are for them.
I hope that they, I do hope that they go to college because I do think that higher ed opens up a lot of experiences for people, both in terms of like the social aspect and then the academic aspect. I hope that they continue to be curious and think about things critically and not just, that they're leaders, that they don't follow and that they lead. Um, I really hope they stay kind. That's really important to me, to treat people kindly and empathetically. I think we just need more of that in this world, and it just never hurts to, you know, treat people the way you want to be treated, and taking that a step further, treating people the way they want to be treated, and really finding that out and meeting people where they're at. Um, yeah, that would, lastly, I think, I hope, I hope that just sort of the world in general is in a bit of a better place. There's a lot of tough things kind of happening in the world right now. And when I think about what really matters to me is some sustainability issues like global warming, that kind of stuff. I don't know. Big stuff. Yeah. I mean, to me, at the end of the day, like the earth is like kind of that's all we have, right? I mean, all this other stuff doesn't really matter if all of this is like burning up. So I hope that they're part of the solution for that, and that, we talk about that a lot in our family, just, our earth and the resources we have, like, this is it, if we use it all up, it doesn't get, there's no replacing it, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah, that's a good life lesson.
And you guys are going to be the generation that kind of has to help be part of the solution. So yeah, my husband and I were like, oh my gosh, we were supposed to be the generation that like started to fix it, and what are we doing? So we talk about that a lot, just in terms of leaving the world a better place than where you found it. And I hope that they continue that, and I hope it's in a better place 10 to 15 years from now.
Yeah, sooner rather than later, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, I think that, when I just wanted to share with you, since we've only known each other, I can't believe we've only known each other 6 months.
I know, it's weird.
It feels like 10 years.
I know, it does.
It feels like I've known you for a long
and
time.
I felt like that right from the get-go with
I did
you.
too.
And there are certain people that I get that with, and I love that.
Like maybe a previous life. I
Yeah,
don't know.
totally.
But I think that something that I want to share with you that have kind of resonated with me over the 6 months that I've gotten to know you is I knew your girls were your number one priority above all else. You were always, it was interesting that you said you'd like to make sure that they hopefully are kind at 21, and they can't help but not be with you as a mom. I had a big disappointment this summer, and you were like one of the first people to reach out to me and said, let's go to lunch. And you hardly knew me.
Yeah.
And that was so kind and considerate of you, and it really meant a lot.
Oh, thank you.
Really did.
You know, it means a lot to me to hear you say that, because I think that is a really important attribute in people. There's no place for being mean.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mean people suck. It's just not. It's not fun,
That's what we're
right?
gonna title this podcast.
Yes,
Mean people suck.
They do, and it's just, I don't know. It's just not. It's not cool, right? And so, but I will say one of the harder things in a busy leader role is remembering to do things like that and to reach out to people and have it be authentic, right? And so, I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah, it meant a lot. And I knew with your very busy job, and also what I've really been interested in or watched is with your demands of your job, your attentiveness to commitment. Though, when you say you're going to do something, you do it. When you say you're really good at those lines. Like with the scholarship committees for the girls, you are doing great. You really are. But
that's hard.
Your daughters have a tremendous role model in you, and we're so happy you're in Women Who Succeed.
Thank you.
And I'm so grateful that you could be here today.
Honestly, it's an honor to be a part of the organization. It's so much fun. I think you guys are doing great work. I think we're doing great work.
We're doing it.
Yes,
we're doing it together.
It's really fun. And I can't
the staff would be us.
I can't wait to see how it grows too.
Yeah.
You know, this is year 1, and look at everything you've done, and during a pandemic. So I think when the world opens up a little bit more and we all continue to adjust, who knows what the heck is going to happen, but I think we're off to a really good start. It's exciting. It's a testament to your good work.
Well, there she is, Katie Amundsen. Well, thank you for listening today to We Hear Her, and we look forward to having you next time to our next podcast.
Thank you for taking time to hear her. Join our efforts and learn more at womenwhosucceed.org. A big thank you to our sponsor, the Clark and Christine Ivory Foundation.